it's going to mean now that Donald Trump is giving the go-ahead?
Well, from the Canadian perspective, the Keystone XL pipeline was trumpeted and promoted very much by the previous Conservative government here, but was finally stopped by the Obama administration. It was rejected by the Obama administration. And so it had become almost a bit of a non-issue here. And ironically, the cabinet of Justin Trudeau, the Liberal Prime Minister, whose government has been held power here since late 2015, was holding a retreat precisely to discuss how to deal with the incoming Trump administration when they got the news that President Trump had decided to go ahead with the Keystone project. Interestingly, they received no notice of this at all. They found out through the US media that this was happening, and I think it's largely welcomed by the Trudeau government. Canada is an energy-producing country, and this would be a large project for a part of the country that has been depressed because of low oil prices. But as you say, it's hugely controversial in terms of the environment and has a lot of hurdles yet to overcome.
Jesse Coleman from Greenpeace, economic benefits in Canada, and Donald Trump says 28,000 jobs as a result of it, as well as strengthening energy supplies for Americans. What is your view of it?
Well, those are what have been called alternative facts, I believe. As the State Department found, the Keystone XL pipeline would create just 35 permanent jobs. The rest of the jobs are short-term construction work.
Well, there's still jobs that would exist, albeit not forever.
Yeah, well, yeah, for a very short amount of time. And, you know, the truth of the matter is that in 2016, the solar industry alone created more jobs than the entire fossil fuel industry did in the United States. So it's unnecessary from a jobs perspective.
So what reaction are environmental groups like yours going to promise then to this announcement?
Well, we will stand with the Standing Rock Sioux, and we'll stand with the other communities that are going to be in the way of these two pipelines. Absolutely, and that's kind of the way that we see, the movement going forward is standing alongside the, many thousands of people that will be getting in the way of these two pipelines and preventing them from being built.
And more broadly on Donald Trump's administration and the messages coming out. What's your reaction to what's going on with social media and apparent constraints being put on various groups?
Well, frankly, it's very troubling. As you mentioned, he's shut down the ability for the EPA to communicate with the outside world. Many journalists can't reach the EPA for comment on
the Environmental Protection Agency. Yep, sorry, carry on.
That's right. Yep, and so that's what we're seeing is an attempt really to shut down communication on science and on facts of environmental concern.
Lee, I know that you're joining us for the Canadian perspective, but I mean, as a journalist, just tell us a bit more about what reaction there has been to the constraints on social media and where the directive is coming from. Is it clear?
No, I mean, the fact that Justin Trudeau, the Prime Minister here, was having that huddle means that, of his cabinet in the Canadian city of Calgary, it means that the government here is looking at the Trump administration with a great deal of nervousness because it's very unpredictable and nobody knows quite what this kind of policy on the fly really means. And of course, Canada has an enormous trading relationship with the United States. It's a trading relationship worth about $2 billion a day. And when Trump talks about protectionism and putting up fences and putting up walls, Canada wants to know and needs to know whether that means them as well. A senior Trump official did join this retreat and tried to reassure the Canadians, but apart from oil, there's also the huge auto pact between the two countries. So from an economic perspective, Canada, I think, is still looking at the Trump administration with a great deal of nervousness. And of course, the two leaders are ideologically very far apart as well. This is probably the most left of centre government in Canada since Justin's father, Pierre, was in power in the late 60s and early 70s.
And Jesse Coleman, just a final thought on that freeze that Donald Trump has introduced on implementing at least 30 environmental rules that were finalised in the dying months of President Obama's time in office.
Well, the truth is that the United States is still a country with a very strong rule of law, and there are going to be significant court challenges that we'll have to go through. And I think that there is a very good chance that there is a tremendous amount of overreach by the Trump administration. A lot of the things that he has already promised, and of these freezes specifically going forward, will have to be fought out in a courtroom, and that's not. And facts will have bearing in that case. So I'm hopeful about those actually being enacted.
Jesse Coleman from Greenpeace, Lee Carter, journalist based in Toronto, thank you both very much. And we'll have more on all the latest developments from the Trump White House tonight at 7 p.m. in our new programme, 100 Days, with Katty Kay in Washington and Christian Fraser in London. At 7 o'clock here